It also turns out that the government has talked with great fanfare about reducing the migration numbers in our country so that they can help bring down the pressure in the housing market. Now, we all need more houses in every community across the country because there's huge demand. But as it turns out, the numbers in the migration program aren't going down, they're actually going up. In the May budget, the government predicted that there would be some 130,000 or there will be more than 130,000 than they projected in May under the migration program. And we know that they're now projecting that there'll be 1.625 million people, 1,625,000 people, as opposed to 1.495 million people in the May budget. So how does Jim Chalmers look the Australian public in the eye and tell them a story about migration which is not true? The pressure that they're putting onto housing is going to make it less affordable for families to get a home. It's going to make it less affordable for somebody to rent a property. And I think Australians realise that this government's made decisions that are just making it harder for families. Now, we also learned today that there is, at a time where we've got huge shortages, trying to get a tradie, a carpenter, a brickie or a plumber or an electrician, it's hard and it's also expensive. And the government had the opportunity under the migration program review to allow more tradies to come in, as we've done in decades past, to try and meet that demand, because at the moment you can't build a house and you can't get a renovation done in a reasonable time at a reasonable cost because of the massive shortage of tradies in this country. So the government, in a single decision, is going to make it harder to find a tradie and more expensive to find a tradie, and that's exactly the opposite of what this Prime Minister promised when he was elected in May of 2022. He said he was going to make life easier for people, and all of these decisions are making life harder for Australians. It's less affordable when you go to the supermarket. We know that gas prices are up by some 28% over the course of the last 18 months. Electricity prices are up by 18 months, and the government's made a decision now which means it's going to be harder and more expensive to find tradies as well. I think it's also worth pointing out that Stephen Smith, who's the High Commissioner personally appointed by the Prime Minister, is ashamed of Australia Day and has called off Australia Day celebrations in London. I find this quite remarkable. How can you be the representative of our country in the United Kingdom and not believe in Australia Day? And the Albanese government needs to call up the High Commissioner. I don't know where he is or what he's doing, but he needs to announce today that he made an error in judgment, that he made the wrong decision. You can't have a High Commissioner who is embarrassed to be Australian. You can't have a High Commissioner who says we're going to cancel the Australia Day celebration because we don't want to hold this charity event any longer, because he doesn't believe in Australia Day. The Prime Minister, the acting Prime Minister, the Foreign Affairs Minister should be very clear, and they should direct the High Commissioner and any other High Commissioners or ambassadors who have got similar views that we celebrate Australia Day in our country with great pride. We're the greatest country in the world, and we should be prepared to celebrate it here in Australia and at our posts overseas. And I don't think Stephen Smith is living up to the expectations of Australians, and the Prime Minister needs to show strength, not weakness here, and call out the High Commissioner in London, because it's completely and utterly unacceptable.